Hi, my name is Eric Anderton, and today I'd like to talk to you about 7 ways to build and sustain a winning construction company. I've been helping construction industry companies build people and profit since 2004. And the 3 things I do is strengthen your leadership through executive coaching, help you to build your team through leadership development, and help you to grow your business through strategic planning. You don't need me to tell you that construction is very challenging. From 1964 through 2018, the volume of work has stayed about the same in constant dollars. Competition has risen 3 times. You know that the labor market is extremely tight. High school seniors rank construction in the bottom 5% of all careers. And other than opening a restaurant, it's the second most risky business to get into. Not only that, but net profit margins are very thin, 3% on average. That means you have to generate $33,000 in revenue to make $1,000 of profit. Put it another way, it takes approximately 4 to 5 profitable jobs to break even from 1 bad job. And so that's why it's extremely important for you to understand these 7 ways to build and sustain a winning construction company. Number 1, you've got to be able to face the brutal facts. Then you've got to establish the culture of your company, commit to winning, build winning processes, acquire and develop talent, get everyone on the same page in leadership in terms of their unity and communication, and then work very hard. So in order to illustrate these 7 steps, and you can see that they have a lot to do with winning and with hard work, we're going to dive into the National Football League. Particularly, we're going to take a look at the San Francisco 49ers. And they are currently on a journey from being a losing franchise to being a winning one. So we want to think about the lessons that they're learning in this process of rebuilding their organization in terms of how you can build and sustain a successful construction company. Now, we know that success is not guaranteed in any way, but there are processes, there are principles that you can pursue that increase the likelihood of your success. So what comes to mind when you think of the San Francisco 49ers? Well, they started 2016 and they had a terrible season and they ended up 2-14. Bill Parcells, the famous Hall of Fame coach, says that you are what your record says that you are. So in other words, the bottom line tells you how successful you are in running your business, just like the end record tells you how successful a football team is. They started off 2017 0-9. That means they lost 9 consecutive games, but they kind of recovered in the middle of 2017 and finished 6-10. And so what you see with the San Francisco 49ers, they were once a great franchise, as many of you may know. They won 5 Super Bowls in about a 15, 16, 17-year period. But they faced a lot of hard times lately, and they're really focused now on rebuilding that winning culture. And so those 7 things, just to repeat them. Number 1, you've got to be able to face the brutal facts. And we're going to dive into each one of the 7 here in a little more detail. So facing the brutal facts begins with the leadership at the top of the organization. This is Jed York, the president and CEO of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, what's interesting about Jed is he's the son of the owners. He's young, as you can tell here. He's probably in his mid-30s now, but started off in his late 20s in a very high position in the organization. So needless to say, he was extremely inexperienced. At the time of him starting as the leader of the organization, Trent Baalke was the general manager, responsible for acquiring talent, and Jim Harbaugh, forgot his name there for a minute, Jim Harbaugh was the coach. So the general manager and the coach worked together in order to put the talent on the field to win the games. Just like you may have leaders in your organization who work together to not only win work, but also put the talent into each job so that you are able to build the jobs as profitably as possible. So the Niners experienced some success, but ultimately Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke couldn't get along. And so Jed was faced with a choice. Who was he going to pick? Was he going to pick the guy who brought the team very great success on the field in terms of his coaching, or the general manager? Well, ultimately, he picked the general manager, and he replaced him with this gentleman named Jim Tomsula. Now, Jim Tomsula is a long-term successful assistant coach, and he was elevated to the head coach role, a technical expert, friends with Jed York, and someone that I think Trent Baalke thought he would be able to control. So nevertheless, he was brought in for a year and was a resounding failure. And he was then replaced by Chip Kelly in 2016. Chip Kelly was an outsider, very successful in college at the University of Oregon. He was okay in the pros as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, there was a failure on the field because of a lack of talent and a lack of coaching skill, you could say. So at that point, Jed York had to face the brutal facts. And what did he do? He fired both of them. Ultimately, he removed the leadership in the organization and had to replace it. Now, you may not be at the point where you have to remove the leadership in the organization because you may be the main leader. But the fact is you must face the brutal facts in your company and acknowledge where failure is, and then take the steps necessary in order to address that failure so that you can build and sustain a winning construction company. So you got to make changes at times. And so what Jed York did is he brought in a new general manager. His name is John Lynch, and a new head coach, Kyle Shanahan. They were given long-term deals, and they were both brought in with the aim and intention of rebuilding the franchise from a place of failure to a place of sustained success. So that leads us to the second thing that you have to do in order to build and sustain a winning construction company, and that is establish the culture. Let's dive into that in a little more detail. This is Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was very successful at establishing the culture in the for the Niners back in the 80s when they experienced a lot of success. And this is what he says: the culture precedes positive results. It doesn't get tacked on as an afterthought on your way to the victory stand. Champions behave like champions before they're champions. They have a winning standard of performance before they are winners. Every successful company has a culture that drives that success. And when I think of culture, I think of four things specifically. Number one, the purpose of the business. Why does the business exist? Number two is the personality. How do the people in the organization behave, or what are the values that drive the success of the business? Number three is the plan. How are we going to be successful? And in construction, this is absolutely critical. Three things you must address. What is the right job that we should do in order to be successful? Who are the right clients that we should work with? And then third, what is the right location where we should be doing work? Right job, right client, right location. Many construction companies are getting in trouble these days because they are moving away from their core strategy, taking on work because the work is available. They're very much focused on the volume, the top line volume, but they're losing money because they're doing the wrong jobs for the wrong clients in the wrong locations. I want to encourage you, stop being greedy, start being smart. Make sure that in your organization, you're doing the right jobs for the right clients in the right locations. And then you've got to be able to define your priority. What's most important right now? If someone woke you up in the middle of the night and asked, what is the one thing you must do in the next 90 days in order to be successful? Would you be able to answer that question clearly? These are all key components of establishing the culture of a winning organization. And you do this so that you can have the right people doing the right things the right way in the right time. Okay, so the third thing you have to do is commit to winning. Now, this may seem obvious, but ask yourself, in your organization at the moment, how many people do you have that are absolutely 100% committed to winning every single project that you build? Or do you have people who are just picking up their paychecks, thankful for a job, and just going about their business? You must build an organization where every single person is committed to winning, is committed to focusing on doing whatever is necessary to build projects in a particular way. Now, what does it mean to win in a construction company? Well, you've got to bid right, you've got to plan right, you've got to build right, and then you've got to get paid. And now, that's very simple to say. It's very difficult to do. It requires a great deal of attention to detail. Just think about the build process itself. You must do it safely. You must do it quickly. And you must do it with high quality in order to make money. So to do that, to really execute on that commitment to winning, you have to build winning processes. Winning is based on how effectively your processes are assembled and managed. You can have the best players, the best equipment, the best intentions, but if you don't have systems for them to operate within, it's going to be tough to win. So list your top 10 processes. Think about this real quick. In terms of the bid, the build, the plan, and the bill. Which processes have the most opportunity for documentation? Which processes have the most opportunity for improvement? Which of your managers need to be held more accountable for the processes they oversee? So you got to understand that quality people They need quality processes in order to be successful. If you put good people up against bad processes, the bad processes win every single time. All right, number 5, talent acquisition and development. Massive issue in construction companies. And the San Francisco 49ers, they really focused on talent acquisition and development. And you may be saying, well, Eric, it's easy for NFL teams to acquire talent because everyone wants to play professional football. And it's true that there's a lot of talent out there, but finding the right talent to fit in the right positions in an organization, whether it's the NFL or a construction company, is definitely not an easy thing to do. Okay, now I know in construction that not a lot of people are necessarily banging down your door, but you can learn something from NFL teams in terms of talent acquisition and development. So number 1, you've got to focus on the draft. Let me ask you this. How strong are your relationships with local high schools and with universities that have excellent construction management programs? You must focus on the draft. You must get involved with organizations that are focused on developing talent at an early age so that you can bring them into your organization through internships and other means, and as a result of that, build the talent base in your company. So what the 49ers did, they identified college players, guys like Trent Taylor here on the left, a successful receiver, and Reuben Foster on the right. He was an excellent linebacker. They focused on the draft. And so I want to encourage you again, focus on college, high school, and even military in order to get great people into your organization. So who are your scouts? Who's out there every single day looking for talent, willing to bring in talent whenever they appear? Because the next thing you have to do as far as talent acquisition and development is concerned is you've got to pounce on talent. And that's where you've got to come and find the Jimmy G's. Jimmy Garoppolo came in mid-season for the 49ers, and he transformed the organization. It was really, really interesting. Just one person had such a massive impact upon the success of the organization on the field. Think of it this way. Imagine if, for some reason, that high-quality superintendent that works for your competition became available today. Would you be able to pounce on that talent? The superintendent that drives the success of the foreman and the crews in the field and really makes you a lot of money. Are you able to pounce on that talent? Do you know where that talent lives? Are you developing relationships with that talent in an ethical way, of course, so that you can bring on the right people and put them in the right position? Speaking of which, the next aspect of talent acquisition and development is what I call free Bo. This is Navarro Bowman, an extremely successful linebacker for many years for the San Francisco 49ers. But you know what they found after the first few weeks or few months of the new regime? They found that Bo really wasn't a fit for them. So you know what they did? They released him. And he got picked up by the Raiders, and he had a good year for them. Now think about this. Do you have the right people in your organization on the right seats, doing the right things? Jim Collins says this: right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats. It's extremely important. So in order to really do a good job of that and to make sure that people perform at the highest possible level, you've got to be able to ask these and answer these 6 critical questions. Number 1, is everyone in the right position in your organization? Number 2, do they understand their role? Number 3, do they have the necessary technical training? Number 4, do they have all the support from others for that role? It's interesting, when Jimmy Garoppolo came in at quarterback, the receivers for the 49ers immediately got better because Jimmy Garoppolo was able to get them the ball. Think of people in your organization that may not be performing at their highest possible level. Perhaps it's because they're not getting the support they need in order to perform at the highest possible level. So make sure that you're getting your Jimmy G's in the right place to support other folks so that they can execute their roles effectively. Number 5, are they working hard enough? If not, why not? Is it a moral issue or is it a morale issue? You've got to distinguish between the two. So someone may have a moral issue. Basically, they may be lazy and they may not have the right attitude in order to fit into the organization. Or there may be a morale issue. They may be in the wrong place in the organization. They may just be reporting to someone they don't get along with, and there could be motivational issues associated with that person. Moral issues tend to come from within. Morale issues tend to come from without. So you've got to identify if they're working hard enough, and if not, why not? And then number 6, are they laser focused? Are they asking and answering this every single day? What can I and no one else do, which have done really well, would make a difference to this organization? Those are 6 critical questions that you have to ask in order to develop your talent and make sure you're maximizing the talent that you have in your organization. Okay, number 6, leadership, communication, and unity. Okay, now, we know that in construction, just like the NFL, winning is very difficult, and it's critical that the leadership be on the same page together. Think about this photo right here. These were the old leaders in the organization. There's a lot of tension there in that photograph, right? Now, contrast that with this photograph here. Here's Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They're working hand in hand together to rebuild this franchise. And this is what John Lynch says. The communication that we had during the course of the year is crucial and integral. We've got to stick to that moving forward in the future and plan on doing that. Again, winning is very difficult. You have to get on the same page as a leadership team, and you've got to stay on the same page. And so it's critical that whatever issues are coming up in the organization, you're consistently meeting about them, talking about them, whether they be process issues or people issues or strategic issues. Don't be sweeping stuff under the rug. Bring it out into the light. Talk about it. Work through it so that you can maintain leadership, communication, and unity. Now, the last thing, hard work. Okay, it's very hard to win in the NFL. It's very hard to win in construction. You have to be willing to work very, very hard. And so this is what Kyle Shanahan says. We will either be better or worse. The only way you get better is if you work. If we don't, I promise we'll be worse. We've got to go right back to work. Work just as hard as we did last year and try to be the best you can. Now, think about this. You build a successful project, you make some money on it, and you know what happens? People start patting themselves on the back, as they rightly should, but sometimes they get complacent, they get sloppy, they stop executing the processes that help you to be profitable. And you have to emphasize again and again and again, in order to be successful, we must execute at a high level on every single project that we build. And that requires consistent, hard work. So again, here's the 7 ways to build and sustain a winning construction company. Face the brutal facts, establish the culture, commit to winning, build winning processes, talent acquisition and development, leadership, unity, and communication, and last, but definitely not least, hard work. Again, my name is Eric Anderton. If you want to contact me and discuss how I might be able to help you with any of these 3 things, feel free to shoot me an email, eric@ericanderton.com. I encourage you, take each one of these 7 and ask yourself, how well are you executing on them at the moment? If you focus on these 7 things that I discussed in this short presentation, you will be able to build and sustain a winning construction company. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Contact me anytime. Again, my name is Eric Anderton.